Welcome to Lake County Views. I'm Joe Bennett, your host, and our producer is Mackenzie Payne, who is also our video person. Today we have a very special guest, Dellinger from Special Districts. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
To our show. And today you're going to tell us about something that's very important to our community.
Yes, it is. Wastewater collection, treatment, disposal is very important for the health of local communities, and especially in this beautiful rural area that we live in Lake County. Wastewater management is very important. Today we're here at the Southeast Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, which collects raw wastewater from the communities of Lower Lake and the city of Clear Lake. It's pumped through a series of pump stations and collection piping, brought to this site, and then enters into a treatment process.
Okay.
And we're going to walk through that treatment process today, and then also talk about how that water ultimately gets, after it's cleaned, is sent to the geysers for recycling.
All right. You know, it's a perfect day today, and because we are in a rural area, it's awesome to be here in the wide open with the mountains, the fields, and of course the cattle and the water and the wildlife. It doesn't seem like this is a job.
No, it is a job, but this is you're right. This is a very nice environment in which to be in, and part of what makes this look so pretty is that we have a lot of property here that's owned by the public agency. There's over 560 acres of land that's included in this site. The main reason that so much land was originally acquired was because of the kind of disposal that we utilized for that. 15 years ago, we would have a series of sprinklers that would be out irrigating the land.
Yes.
Where many of these cattle are, and then the cattle would graze that and keep the grass down. But that had some problems with it because you can't irrigate and graze cattle in the wintertime when the grass isn't growing.
Oh,
so that
yes.
meant we had to store the treated wastewater. And in the 500 acre foot plus storage reservoir, the generation of the wastewater that comes into this facility actually begins in the collection system in Lower Lake and Clear Lake. The system includes a series of pump stations and collection pipes, and then the users of the system, whether that be residential units or commercial or institutional buildings, they're connected to the system. In order to control the kinds of materials that come into the wastewater treatment, we have programs to address those issues. It's oils and grease. And those are materials that we want to keep out of the treatment process because they are not conducive to the treatment that's at play here. So we try and separate that out through requiring folks to install grease interceptors or grease traps. This is particularly important with commercial establishments such as restaurants. We would also ask that residences, while they may not have grease traps or interceptors, it's not appropriate to put those kinds of materials in the toilet or down the drain because those substances, when they get into the wastewater collection system, they congeal or harden, and then they can create plug-ups to the system which will cause spills. And the spills are not only bad for the environment, but we can also be subject to regulatory enforcement actions, including fines. The other material that we want to make sure stays out of the wastewater system is pharmaceutical chemicals, prescription drugs. Those should be encased in containers and placed into the garbage to go to landfills. So they should not be placed into the sewer system. So after all that wastewater is collected, it's pumped through these pipelines, and in the case here of the Southeast Regional Plant, it comes in over here in a large pipeline, and what we have right here is called the Headworks facility. The Headworks then has what we call an automatic bar screen that collects any solids that may still be in the wastewater, separates those out. Those are then placed in a container and then placed in the landfill. and then the wastewater runs into the treatment process. In the case here, these are called biological treatment process, which is an aerated lagoon system. The wastewater goes out through pipes and is discharged into either end of these two treatment trains. You notice that we have pumps running. Those are aerators. They add oxygen to the system, and they make the biological treatment process, the breakdown of the waste, more complete, and then solids settle out to the bottom, and those become what we call biosolids, and I'll talk about those in a minute. The wastewater then, if you notice these lines going across the treatment ponds, those basically contain curtains that hang down in the water. There's holes in them, and it allows the water to follow what we call a snake-like or a serpentine pathway, which again adds to more complete treatment of the wastewater. And then when it's run through each one of these trains, the biologically treated water is falling down through these standpipes, and then it comes over here underground, and it is chlorinated right here, and then goes into what we call a chlorine contact channel. The chlorine contact channel, after chlorine is injected into the wastewater, removes all the remaining pathogens, and it does it in a very slow process through the channel, and that gives us what we call the detention time. So you need a certain amount of time for the chlorine, the disinfectant, to perform its action in killing the pathogens. Then the water, after it's treated, is now called effluent, and it flows out. There's a small little structure down there. That's where we sample the effluent, and then it discharges out into the effluent storage reservoir, a 530 acre-foot facility that contains the treated wastewater, and also some lake water is mixed in, which eventually goes into the pipeline to recycle to the geysers. And in a minute we'll go down to that site and take a look at how those components work in the system.
Okay. How much water are we talking about that is actually pulled off of the lake?
We're allowed to, under the water rights agreements, to take as much as 7,950 acre-feet a year.
Okay.
Under certain conditions, depending on whether the lake is full enough or not. If the lake doesn't get full enough by a certain time in the spring, it would be possible that we wouldn't get any lake water to go into the recycled water pipeline for the next 12-month period. Oh. And that's governed by pre-existing water rights documents, the Solano Decree, the Kopchevik Decree. The water, it actually that 7,950 acre-feet comes out of Yolo County's water rights allocation, not anybody that has water rights on Lake in Lake County, on Clear Lake. So it comes out of their water rights package. And the history of that goes back a long time, of when we were first looking at doing this recycled water project, because an alternative to this recycling was going to be a discharge of the wastewater below the dam on Cache Creek.
Yes.
And that met with a lot of resistance and opposition from people in Yolo County, including not only the farmers, but also the people that run the whitewater raft companies on Cache Creek.
Goodness.
So we were able to work with the Yolo County Flood Control Water Conservation District to partner to help support this project so we could help get it constructed. So there was a case where people, while you might think they had diverging strategies and opinions about the management of water resources, we were able to come together and solve the problem, working together.
That's great. There has always been a lot of controversy over the amount of water that's being pulled off of here, and also how it leaves the county of Lake
Sure.
with so much water being pulled off, and the specific time periods that water is taken off of the lake.
Now, another way to look at that water, because a lot of people have expressed concern over the water that goes into this pipeline that recycles to the geysers, the water out of the lake. It had to be evaluated in the environmental document and that whole process before the recycling project was permitted and constructed.
Yes.
But when you look at in the context of the other water that's lost out of the lake, such as evaporation, each year between 36 and 42 inches of water evaporates off the surface of Clear Lake. The amount of water that this extraction represents is based on an average lake level.
Yes.
It's about 1.5 inches off the surface of the lake. That much water.
Oh my
because
goodness.
we all know this. Clear Lake has a very large surface area.
Yes.
So in the bigger scheme of things, from an environmental impact standpoint, removing that water out of the lake is not a significant impact to the lake.
Okay. One of the other things, now that I'm thinking about it, when we have fires in certain areas, the helicopters come over.
Yes.
And they actually dip water out. And
They dip out of, sometimes they dip out of here depending on where it is. Most of the time they dip out of the effluent storage reservoir. And I know a case when that happened, it's been several years ago. There was actually brush fires up around our treatment facility, but the wind was blowing them towards structures.
Yes.
So CAL FIRE needed to get in and get that put out. So they were dipping out of the effluent storage reservoir and putting the fires out with it because there was no other source of water.
Yeah.
And we work with them pretty closely to make sure that that's available if needed for emergency purposes.
That's very good to know because we are so isolated from anything else. So in case of an emergency, we've got a backup plan here.
Yes, we do.
Great. Okay.
Now we're standing by the effluent reservoir, which is a 530 acre-foot facility. This stores the treated wastewater that comes from not only the treatment process here at the Southeast Regional Plant, but there's also a pipeline that comes down through this valley that brings recycled water or treated effluent from the community of Clear Lake Oaks and the Northwest Regional Plant that is on the north of Lakeport, on the north side of the lake, and that serves the communities of North Lakeport, Upper Lake, Nice, Lucerne, Conotai, Paradise Valley, and then as I mentioned, Clear Lake Oaks. So all the water, treated water that's coming from the north end of the lake finds its place here, mixes with the water from the Southeast Regional System, and then mixes with lake water and is pumped to the geysers. And we'll go down and look at the pump station that sends that to the geysers in just a moment.
And what did you say the percentage was of the treatment that...
Of the wastewater that's generated in Lake County as a whole, we're recycling about 85% of that wastewater to the geysers for recharging the steam fields.
That is just awesome.
Another reason that we're standing here is to be able to see in the background here one of the solar facilities that facility right there supplies the total needs of the treatment process. And when we go down to the pump station, we're going to see another solar facility. We have 2 solar sites at our Northwest Treatment Plant that supports the treatment process for that facility. So we have about 5 different sites for a total of approximately 5 megawatts to help us either pump water to the geysers to recycle or to supply the electricity needed for the treatment process itself. And when we get down by the pump station, we'll talk a little bit more about how the solar was added into this recycling system.
So it's pretty much self-contained.
Yes. Now the thing about solar energy, though, is that the sun doesn't shine 24 hours a day. So while that's sized to handle all of the demand for the treatment process, we still have to have some of the power that comes in from the PG&E grid for those times when there's either storms or when it's dark, when solar is not generating electricity. One of the nice things about the geysers recycling is that this water gets into that field and that generates power continuously. It doesn't need the sun. So it's using the heat of the earth to generate electricity. So that's kind of a good thing, and having the solar kind of piggybacks on, or it creates kind of a synergistic effect, is that we're recycling into the geysers and we're using renewable energy to get the water to the geysers. So this synergism is a very important thing when we talk about sustainability for communities and for energy and for environmental protection.
And like we said, alternate energy is really the direction we're headed in, not only for places like the treatment water treatment facility, but also in our private homes.
Oh, sure.
You know, this is wonderful. I know that PG&E also buys back or gives credit when we do things like that. We have some energy things too that's going on in Lake County, so hopefully at some point Lake County Views can also address that. While we are here, we talked a little bit about the cattle, but I wanted you to touch on the fact that we are also helping nature, our environment. This goes a long way for the benefits of the acreage that we own here and so forth. So tell us a little bit about the cattle and how they fit into this picture.
Well, the cattle historically were grazed on this land when we were spray irrigating the water. But as I mentioned earlier, in those days we would have to store wastewater in this effluent storage reservoir over the wintertime, because you can't graze cattle if you don't have grass growing in the wintertime, which was the case, and
Yes.
we weren't allowed to irrigate in the winter either. So we would have to store everything, and the problems that created for us is that we had so much flow coming into the facility that this reservoir would overflow, it would discharge into Burns Valley Creek and then find its way into Clear Lake.
Yes,
and we
that's
had the
what
same overflow problems with our effluent storage reservoir in the Northwest Regional System. So having the geysers take this water on a continuous basis has completely eliminated those discharges from entering Clear Lake. Now, something that will happen though to this land in the future, it's not like we want to go ahead and sell this land off. It's going to have value to us, and here's why. I mentioned earlier when I talked about the treatment process that part of that allows for a biological decomposition of the wastewater, and as part of that, the solids settle to the bottom of those treatment lagoons.
Okay.
What we do on a periodic basis is we'll have those solids, or we call that biosolids or sludge.
Yes.
We have that material pumped out of the treatment process, dried, and currently we have it hauled off to licensed application sites. But in the future, because that's a very expensive proposition, in the future, and we're starting through the permitting process now, we want to have the land that we have available for application of the biosolids, and that would be what they call in the regulations a Class B application. What would happen there is that the biosolids or the sludge would be dried to a certain level, would be taken out onto these areas, our grasslands,
Yes.
spread, tilled into the soil, and then you plant a nitrogen-fixing crop that takes up the nitrogen that's being put into the soil.
Oh my
That
goodness.
crop has value for agricultural purposes, and we're able to manage the biosolids. So again, we can recycle those materials in a proper fashion. There may be other opportunities for us as well. I talked earlier about biodiesel
Yes.
fuel and how grease that's collected may be able to be used in that. There's also a possibility that we can grow particular crops that could be used to create biodiesel. We have a lot of diesel vehicles in our
Yes,
fleet.
we do. Yeah.
So
We
we're
have a
wondering
lot in
if
the
we
country.
couldn't create some biodiesel that could go into our service trucks and be
yes.
recycled that
Oh,
way.
yes.
It could bring down our operation and maintenance costs as well. So there's things there that are important for our ratepayers when we try to moderate costs, whether it be solar, whether it be biodiesel generation, whether it be recycling. There's a lot of things that we can do to try and control costs for our ratepayers, because ultimately these systems don't run without ratepayers paying their fees.
Right.
And I know you've expressed concern about, why do you pay these big sewer bills? Well, one of the reasons is to protect water quality and
Yes.
to protect Clear Lake. But we also need to understand it, if we want to have wastewater and water service on a continual basis, we have to be able to pay for that.
Yes.
And it is a costly proposition to have water and wastewater service every second of every day of
Yes,
every year.
yes.
We are charged with maintaining these things on a continuous basis. You can't just turn it off. We can't tell people to stop flushing their toilets.
that's right.
We have to provide the service, and that's why it's so expensive, and we need to do appropriate capital project planning to keep these systems up so that we can keep the infrastructure sustainable, as well as the environment and the water and the economics and the community sustainable.
Absolutely. Well, you know, one of the other things too is Betsy Kahn, who is the secretary of CLAC, Clear Lake Advisory Committee. She is always talking and working about the watersheds and the benefit of clean water, and how our environment affects the water that goes into our watersheds. She's working on several projects, I know, right now, and I'm on one of the committees with that. I can't say enough about the knowledge that I have gained from talking to you. Mark, you're better than an encyclopedia. I'm telling you, you know your job and you know it well. But to see the benefit, to visually see where the money goes, has stopped my complaining. It has opened my eyes, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do here on Lake County Views, is to make sure that the people in our community know about anything and everything that is going on. Also, I might put in a plug now that if they have questions or concerns, or if it's something they don't agree with or don't understand, they can certainly contact your office,
Absolutely.
which is Special Districts. You're Mark Dellinger. Your website is absolutely fantastic. Your phone number is there, and it's on every page, I believe, of the information that you pass out. It gives them recorded information of what your agency is about and what you do. It gives maps. It also gives contact numbers, and it gives percentages. It gives figures. It's almost everything that you would want there. So to our public, they are free to contact your office.
Absolutely.
About that. I don't know if there are tours or anything
We
here.
can arrange for tours.
Is that right?
We've been, over the last several years, we've been doing tours for the school kids in Lake County, and
yes.
That's been a very gratifying experience for us, is to get the elementary students or high school students.
Yes.
And I've the 27 years I've been with the county, I've either gone and spoken to
Yes.
college, high school classes. I've also taught at the junior colleges, Mendocino
Yes.
College and Santa Rosa Junior
wonderful,
College.
wonderful.
Yuba College, we've done some courses for over the years. And that's both in energy, the geothermal,
Yes.
because before I was involved in special districts, I was involved in the regulation of geothermal development in the geysers. The geysers is a very special energy generation
Yes.
complex. It's the largest geothermal complex in the world.
Oh my goodness.
So it's significant. We have a lot of very important and unique resources here in Lake County that most people don't even think about. And getting the message to the students when they're young
That's
is
exactly
absolutely
right.
essential as
Well,
far as I'm concerned.
And we know that if we can talk to the students, they will certainly tell their parents.
They sure
That's
will.
always a good thing. Well, while we're on that subject, you know, I broached the possibility of bringing our Lower Lake students here.
Yes.
Our Lower Lake students, her name is Robin Giese, and she's the teacher, and she has what is called a biology science class.
Okay.
And Mark, you're going to really have to brush up because these kids are really sharp. So we know that we will be doing an event here with them. We're
Okay.
going to bring them. We will set that up with you, and we're going to bring them. It's so important for them to know, because they're going to be the stewards of this.
Absolutely.
This is the
Yeah.
generation that's coming in that will be responsible, and we can't start early enough to
You are
teach
so
them
right.
the importance of this. Okay, so if you're ready, what if you had something else
Yeah,
to
a couple
tell us?
other things here about where we're at, because I mentioned this is like the central mixing point of all the recycled water
Yes.
that's coming from the north part of the county.
Yes.
One of the other important features actually is this structure right here.
Mm-hmm.
This concrete structure is called the intake control structure. And what that is basically is a giant backflow valve. Because when we were doing the environmental analysis for the effluent pipeline project, there was concern that from the public that, okay, you're pumping water out of Clear Lake and you're putting it here and mixing it with treated wastewater, but won't that water, because we're higher than the lake, won't that backflow and contaminate the lake?
Oh.
And we said if you don't have the proper valving in there, the answer is
Yes.
yes. But that's specifically what this is. So this stops the water from backflowing back into Clear Lake.
Oh,
So it's a very important structure, was designed and, you know, cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's a supply line, an intake, and an outflow line right there.
Oh, yes, okay.
So one sends it in and one pulls it out based on the pump station down there that we're going to go to next.
Oh, okay.
So very important for environmental protection that this intake structure is here. The other facility that's right behind it, the white water tank, that is a chlorination facility.
Oh,
and what that's doing is on the line that leaves the reservoir and heads towards the geysers down by the pump station there, this is injecting chlorine into that, so we have a further treatment step. And one of the reasons we did that is because after a number of years of operation of the pipeline, we started to notice algae growth on the inside of the pipeline. And that has a lot to do with the nutrients that are coming in from the lake and mixing with the treated wastewater, because we can normally control the chemistry of the water that we deal with, but it's very difficult to control the lake chemistry because it's a large surface water body. So about 5 years ago, we added that to the system, and that has helped us increase the deliverability of the amount of water we can send to the geysers, because you don't have the biological film growing on the inside of that pipe and creating friction and reducing the flow. So we've actually improved the flow rate by putting that facility in.
Now, this chlorine, this is automatic. The setup is automatic, where it knows how much to give and when to give it.
Correct.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but your facility is spotless. It is so hard to believe.
Well,
come here, you don't expect cleanliness. I mean, we're talking about dirty water, so to speak, you know. So, but your facility is just spotless. Your roads are great.
Well,
and everything's in
we
its
have
place.
a lot to do. I think we could, you know, this road has never been paved. We do a lot of work on it, but it would really be nice in the long term if we could have it paved, and over time we're gradually in sections we're paving the road as you come in off of Pond Road, off Old Highway 53. You know, that was paved, but it was literally destroyed by septic haulers coming in to deliver at our headworks. This happens a lot when we have heavy rain events and trying to avoid spills. We have to vacuum that up with the local septic haulers and deliver it. Now, what we've been able to do, though, over time, as money has allowed us, we've been able to systematically, section by section, add more paving to it. But I also had to apologize to you, because down there it doesn't look really nice, because that's a storage yard and a job trailer for another large construction project we have going on right now. And I'm hoping that you will come back and do another interview, and we can talk about that capital project at a later date. So it's not quite as neat as it should be. And I have to give all the credit to the people that work at these facilities. Robert Saderlin and all of his employees, they take care of this facility as if it was their own.
Well, they do a wonderful job.
These are public resources, and we need to make sure that they're in a good condition, and we can all be proud of them as members of the public, because it's our ratepayers, again, that pay for these facilities.
Well, I tell you, people would be very proud if they saw it firsthand. They're going to see it on our film, but the vastness of this and the cleanliness and the feel of it, it's wonderful.
Well, you come back in the spring, you'll see it all nice and green. It'll get a lot greener in the springtime.
Oh, yes. Now, the other thing I was going to ask you, we have cattle. Do we also have sheep here?
No, although we've been doing a couple of unique things with when we have vegetation that gets real high. We have been, and we did this at our Kelseyville wastewater plant. We go work with Kiko goats, and they bring them out and they graze their goats, and they take all that brush down. Now we could, and we competitively bid these things, so we'll take anybody, but rather than mow it with machinery and maybe increasing a carbon footprint, with goats, they just come in and mow it down themselves. You give them a few weeks and it's all taken care of.
Well, you know, and they love that. You can almost see the smile on their faces. They know they're working and they're doing a good benefit here for them. That's great. So we basically work with and help almost every entity in the county.
It's very important that we promote local, any kind of local business that's here. This economy we're in is such a difficult economy right now. These companies need the help, and we really have to do everything in our power to work with them. So whether it's people that do pest control management, whether it's Kiko goats, whether it's the people that run the facilities that have the equipment to mow areas, the auto repair shops. All of these businesses can be used to help us do the business we need to do.
Absolutely.
And you keep recycling those dollars through the local community.
That's what I was going to say, and we're keeping it local, which is very important.
This is an artist's rendering of the recycled pipeline system that serves Lake County. The Northwest Regional Plant is here on the north end of the lake, and there's a pipeline then that runs down Highway 20, Clear Lake Oaks County Water District's wastewater treatment plant hooks into it, and then it comes up over the hill there and through the valley, as I mentioned earlier, and it goes into the effluent storage reservoir. So all of the wastewater from these communities on the north side of the lake mixes with, along with the Oaks wastewater, mixes along with lake makeup water, and then it's pumped from this pump station literally all the way up to a high point on the project about 12 miles south of us. This is called the Harris Creek Reservoir. That's a couple of miles due west of the community of Hidden Valley.
Okay.
And we also have a booster station south of Lower Lake, which helps increase the flows to the geysers. We call it the B Street Pump Station. This was added after the original project came in. And the original project also included a tie-in to the Middletown wastewater treatment plant, so the wastewater from that community goes to the geysers as well. We've added since another pump station here at Middletown, along with another solar facility that's not shown on this map. And then we have a series of 3 pump stations that lift the water over 3,600 feet up into the geysers field, and then it's distributed through injection wells that are operated by the Northern California Power Agency and Calpine Corporation, and distributed into the geysers. Through the arrangement that we have, the contractual agreement with the geothermal developers, the sanitation district's responsible for the pipeline up to the first Bear Canyon pump station, and then from that point on, the industry manages the pipeline into the field. The control system for this pipeline from Clear Lake into the geysers is controlled by NCPA in the geysers. So their control system through a telemetry system controls the pumps that we see right here based on the level that's measured in the Harris Creek tank. So if the level drops below a preset level, they will call for the pumps to turn on and to fill that up. And then when it gets to a high point, then the pumps can stop.
Automatic.
But there's it's called a SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, and SCADA is used a lot in the water and wastewater industry to help manage and monitor systems. It's a very important tool, and especially when we have facilities that are so spread out geographically throughout Lake County, it becomes very important to be able to have central points of control and monitoring so that we can rapidly detect changes in the system and whether or not we need to react to certain conditions. So it's a very important part of this. So we're standing here in front of the what we call the Southeast Pump Station. That's right here, and it happens to be powered by a solar facility. This is one of the 5 sites we have of solar that help support either the treatment process or the recycling. That solar facility there is 1 megawatt worth of capacity, and it has the ability to supply the total electrical load to this plant when the sun's shining. This pump station is operated by 7 300 horsepower pumps. It draws water out of the effluent storage reservoir, sends it through this 20-inch buried steel pipe, goes to the geysers, and this pumps water 12 miles south to go to the Harris Creek Reservoir.
Okay.
And this flow meter here is measuring how much flow is leaving the site and heading towards the geysers. And right now, for example, it's showing 4,615 gallons a minute. And that changes almost instantaneously based on how it's measuring the flow in there. But this This flow meter is right in here between these two pieces of pipe. So that's the whole flow meter. This is just the digital readout that tells you what the flow rate is. Okay. Then we have flow meters at other locations along the pipeline as well. There's at least, there's a flow meter at the Middletown pump station, so we know what's being delivered there. We have flow meters at the Oaks, at the Northwest treatment plant. Then there's a flow meter at the point of delivery in the geysers, and then a flow meter in the control room of NCPA's control center as well in the geysers. And I get daily reports on exactly how much water was delivered the day before. And this happens every single day of every year.
Now, how do you know if it's not working? What happens when this slows down or malfunctions? Or
we have computer screens both in Robert Saderland's office at his in the treatment plant, and there's a computer screen in the geysers, and if certain pumps that should be running are not running, there will be an alarm shows up on the computer screen.
Okay.
But the other thing, because this is continually monitored, we can also monitor the water level in the Harris Creek Reservoir. So if there's a problem in deliverability, it'll show up in the level sensor that's in the tank. I didn't mention this earlier, but this is a 250,000 gallon bolted steel tank.
Oh, wow.
Then a few other things just about the project in general. The first phase came online in 1997. That was from Clear Lake all the way to the geysers. Phase 2 came on in 2001, from about 1998 to 2001, because the first part of Phase 2 was Clear Lake Oaks connecting to the system, and then the Northwest Regional system came in after that. So since 2001, we have 10 communities that are contributing wastewater to this recycled system. That represents about 85% of the total wastewater that's generated in the county. Over 50 miles of pipeline. Average flow rate, it says here 5,800 gallons a minute. That's actually a little higher than that now. It's about 6,000 gallons a minute. All the solar facilities total is at 5 sites, including 2 sites here, 2 sites at Northwest, 1 site at Middletown. Those total about 5 megawatts of installed capacity for the solar.
Now, is the Middletown one the last one to come online?
The Middletown solar facility, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then tell us how many acres that the panels are here for the geysers. I forgot.
This is about 7 acres.
7.
And we have about 5.5 acres down at Middletown. So those 2 are the ones that supply the pumping needs for the pipeline. The other 3 sites, 1 here and 2 at Northwest, are for the treatment processing at those 2 facilities.
And how many acres is ours for the treatment process?
Let's see, it's 7, 14. It's about 8 total, 8 acres total for the treatment process side. We have a total of almost 23 acres of solar panels in operation. And something I didn't mention in this discussion is that these are not fixed mount solar panels. These are called tracking systems. So they follow the sun as it moves through the sky each day. So they'll start out facing the east in the morning, and they'll gradually move to facing flat or south, and then they move to the west. While there are more parts with a tracking system and things that could break, the good side of that is that we increase the solar generation by 20 to 25%. And so that was what was envisioned by the companies that installed these facilities, was to get as much solar generation as we could. So this is the best way to achieve that goal.
That's absolutely great. And it's not bad looking. It's not something that you would find offensive. As a matter of fact, if you're not really close, it just looks like the tops of little buildings of some sort.
Yeah. Things like this are always in the eyes of the beholder, and it's very subjective what visual aesthetics mean to people. Believe me, I've had to deal with it, whether it's fencing, whether it's landscaping with our facilities, because many people find certain things obtrusive, and I don't necessarily do that, but we have to respect the
Right.
needs and the
sometimes it's just a
sensitivities of
matter
the public.
Change.
Sure.
You know, it's just that
Sure.
something has changed, and we don't always accept change. Not readily, anyway.
So a couple of other things about the recycling part of this. All the water that goes to the geysers from our projects represents about 100 megawatts in generation capacity in the geysers, and that's viewed as a fuel source. In other words, the water goes down into the reservoir, it hits hot rock that is fueled by this geothermal system that's 30, 40,000 feet below the surface.
Yes.
And it flashes to steam and it flows up a production well and it goes through a pipe and it goes to a turbine and it spins a turbine and generates electricity. So this wastewater as a fuel source represents 100 megawatts of capacity that would otherwise not be available if we didn't have the project. Then the other thing to kind of piggyback that on is that when we add this to the solar, this represents, as of January 2008, this represents 8 billion pounds of avoided global warming from CO2 emissions.
Is that right?
So I know as one of our supervisors likes to say that we in Lake County are a net energy producer when in terms of the population that we have. So we actually have a surplus of electricity that creates good for reduced carbon emissions and environmental protection and sustainability, because this is a sustainable source here.
Right.
And we are doing things with these projects to reduce the carbon footprint of these facilities.
Well, that's great. It's wonderful not only that we're doing it in our county for our people. And of course we know that global warming is quite a hot topic now, as well as alternative energy. The other good thing I think is that we can come together and partner with other organizations and make this happening. Washington's still having problems. They are not what I would consider reaching across the aisle, as they like to say.
That's true.
So this is absolutely wonderful for us to be able to do this. I wanted to ask you about this pipeline. Now, when I look at this, how far in the ground is this pipeline?
Pipelines like this, that we refer to these as force mains. In other words, it's a pipe that's under pressure because water's being pumped into it, as opposed to a gravity sewer collection system,
Yes.
for example.
Okay.
So because it's not having to follow the grade of the ground, it can be installed shallower. So typically, force main pipelines like this have about 3 to 3.5 feet of cover over the top of them.
Oh,
And so the
that's all.
trench that is excavated to set the pipe in
Yeah.
is typically 5.5 feet, maybe 6
okay.
feet, depending on the diameter of the pipe. And I may or may not have mentioned it, but this is a 20-inch diameter pipe,
Okay.
which is larger than any of the other pipes we have. We have some in our collection system that are 18 inches in diameter, but this is a large diameter pipe as far as the operations that we oversee here. I wanted to mention something else about, you said the place looks real nice, and
Yes.
I appreciate getting that comment or compliment, but this is not as clean as it normally is. You see all this pipe sitting
Yes.
here. We have another very large capital project that's underway right now. We call it the Southeast Force Main Pump Station Improvement Project.
Okay.
And that includes 5 miles of pipeline and upgrades to 2 of our larger pump stations. And it's coming right through the center of Clear Lake.
It is?
Yes, it started construction last fall. It's about 35% complete, and it's going to continue through the rest of this year, although we're kind of shut down because of the weather right now.
Yes.
But they'll probably be starting up before too long, assuming the weather gets better, and then they'll work all through the summer. And the completion for that project is, I think final completion is December 15th of this year.
Oh, December 2012. Now, is that what's going on along Highway 53?
I think it is.
Okay,
We
so-
crossed Old Highway 53, and then we
Yes.
came up on the eastern edge of the airport property.
Oh, okay.
So that pipeline has already been
Oh,
installed.
yes. Well, I see the equipment over at the old, I can't remember, it was an old county building there, and I can't, was it public?
Yeah, Public Works, yeah, and
Okay.
that is some of the equipment from the contractor that's doing the work.
Yes, okay.
But the reason for this project, and it's very, very important, because I know about a year ago we had to have a very significant rate increase for our ratepayers in Clear Lake and Lower Lake, and that was to support this project.
I see.
It was a 40, almost a 40% increase. It was very difficult for us to go forward with because of the economy. It was very difficult for people. But what this gets us in the long run is that this is going to be the long-term solution to address the chronic spills that we've been having in the Highlands Harbor area, and to a lesser extent near Turner Avenue by Pump Station 1 in Clear Lake.
Yes.
Those spills have been with us off and on for over the last 15 years. And water, it's very close to Cache Creek and Clear Lake. And again, to protect public health and safety and clean up the water, protect Clear Lake, it's very important that this project becomes implemented. And we're under a regulatory directive from the Regional Water Board. A number of years ago, we received fines because of those spills, and we have to fix the problem. And so finally, I'm very happy to say that we're moving forward to getting that done.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for telling us that. That's the kind of information we want to get out to the public. And of course, we have said that we would gladly come back when this project is finished, or at any point that you want us to, so that the general public is informed as to what's going on, and we will explain it a second time.
Certainly.
It's nice to be able to tell us what's going on with our money, why the rate increase happens, and the purpose of it, and also the long-term effects of it. You know, we want to know that if this is happening now, there is some light through the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, before I turn 75, say. So that's really good information, and we will come back.
Yeah, I want to have you out here again, because there's some very interesting construction techniques and strategies they're using to install this pipe, and they're really interesting. And it's for me, it's fun to see things happening, to see improvements being made, and to see people working, and to have pipe go in the ground and see pumps put in it, new pumps at a new pump station, and see all these upgrades. And for the long-term viability and health and sustainability of this wastewater infrastructure in Clear Lake and Lower Lake, this is going to be a very good project.
Yes, thank you. You're absolutely correct. And the safety of all, we have had situations where people have thought that the lake was unhealthy. And it turned out to be something completely different. So keeping them informed as to what's going on, and keeping them informed that the benefits of the steps being taken for their safety is really important. They will appreciate this.
Okay.
All right, so did you have something else you wanted to tell us? Have we talked to you?
I'm spent. I can't.
Well, listen, I can't thank you enough. It's you know more than anybody I've talked to in a long time.
Well,
it has certainly been our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm still learning, by the way.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
We would like to thank our guests, those of you at home, for joining us today. I'm Joe Bennett, and as I said, our producer is Mackenzie Payne, and we'll see you at our next series.